What's up, guys, and welcome back. We're in Lebanon, Missouri. Nothing really came up on the load board. Just decided to go ahead and deadhead to Indiana. I'll get there tomorrow. Went ahead and did something I don't normally do and booked myself a hotel room. Just because, I've got friends, family, whatever you want to call it. My brother's up there, another chapter of the club, not very far outside of where we have most of the yards in Indiana. But as this corona stuff is getting a little more serious, and given the fact that with my profession, I would say my chances of catching it are much higher. I don't want to go around them. I would feel awful if one of them or their wives or children wound up getting it because of me. So, booked myself a hotel room, and I'm going to do a reset in Indiana, pick that load up Monday, and we're off to Washington. I've got a couple ideas for loads that I'm looking at, that there's multiple of on the board right now for connecting load from there, and maybe we can turn this into a profitable week, because boy do we need it. So, just spent another nearly $1,200 on the truck. Go ahead and give you guys a little bit of a breakdown on that. New wiper blades. That was $30. I did develop the infamous Ford Death Wobble, so that was covered under warranty, $100 deductible. Shop materials and disposal, that's that miscellaneous charge, so the deductible and then the shop fees. On top of that, because we crossed 100,000 miles, it was due for an oil change, $130. Needed the transmission fluid flushed out for $329. Needed the coolant changed, $200. And then the fuel filters for $200, and air filter for $85. All of that came out to what you saw on Instagram. I cannot wait for this warranty to be over. I mean, I've used it twice now. One was a known issue that occurs fairly regularly, that sensor thing freezing for the air conditioning. And now this, which was also a known issue, which was repaired in 2019. Well, no, 19 was the last year that they still had the issue. It was repaired for the 20s. So what they did was they went under here. We'll see if we can show you. Nope. Oh yeah, there it is. So right there, that piece is what causes the death wobble. In 17, 18, 19, that damper is a single piston one-way damper. In 20, it's dual piston, dual direction, and that resolved the death wobble issue. I will tell you, you can tell the steering wheel is a lot heavier now. Not ridiculous, like, oh my god, this is awful, but you can definitely tell a lot more tension when you steer it. and they claim that that'll fix the death wobble. So we'll see. I have not encountered it yet. I only ever had it bad one time, but there were many times where I'd hit a bump and you would kind of sit there and vibrate and shimmy a little, and it would slowly just kind of level itself out. One time I was merging onto an on-ramp and I hit a pothole that was something freaking terrible. And that's actually the first time that I got the death wobble. And it hit, and the way it shook the truck, I thought the front end collapsed and that it was bouncing on the tires. Like it was it was terrifying. Very thankful I didn't have a trailer on. I was about 30 miles from picking one up, and ever since then, every once in a while I would get it, and it turns out that damper was A, poor design, and B, shot. So we shall see if this resolves the issue permanently. Fingers crossed. And with the transmission and coolant flushed, she's ready for another 100,000 miles. Of course, we'll have to do air filters and fuel filters and oil filters and all that. Like that's not going to change. But as you saw in the price breakdown, the major items are done for another 100,000. Definitely wasn't planning on spending almost $1,200 today. I mean, I knew I was getting an oil change, and I knew I was doing fuel filters and air filter, and I knew I was doing transmission. I did not think the transmission would be that expensive. I should have called ahead. I did not think that the coolant flush was going to be that expensive. But I rolled in and I told the guys, give me the 100,000 mile service. I need it. And I was overdue on air filter, and I was overdue on fuel filter, because the last time I got my oil changed was not at a Ford dealership, and they did not do fuel filters, and they wanted a ridiculous amount for the air filter. As you recall, they charged me $220 for the oil change, but being a Sunday and not having time to wait around, because I was on a bit of a timeline to get myself back across the country, I just went ahead and paid it and kept rolling. So that concludes everything that happened today. I drove a whole lot of miles empty, and I spent a whole bunch of money, and this has been a really bad trip. Like, I dropped my trailer in Fresno, California. I'm going to Goshen, Indiana. Unloaded. And I just dropped almost $1,200 in repairs for my truck. I told you there are bad times to this job. This is one of them. And, of course, today, when I've kind of reached that point where it doesn't make sense to go back to the West Coast, the West Coast board lights up. 100 and something loads. I almost went home and did a reset, but I went, nah, I've still got like 40 something hours on my clock. I can get to Indiana, and I can get one of these good loads out of there, because there's nothing going on in the West right now. I go home a lot, and I didn't want to go home for no reason. I wanted to I felt it was more profitable to just push east, because I didn't think anything was going to happen on the western border. Should have gone home. I mean, there's loads over there right now. Good money, good paying loads, and I'm over here. Oh well. It is what it is. I had a really good run where nothing went wrong. I mean, realistically, if you go back throughout the entirety of my channel, I've almost never been empty. If I was, it was, the worst I ever had was Denver to Indiana, so a day and a half deadhead. Other than that, I have stayed loaded constantly. I was due to have a bad run. And it sucks, but I'm not upset about it. I knew it was a part of this job when I started, and it's not the end of the world. I mean, realistically, I'm right about $300 in diesel, just a hair over. And everything that was done on the truck today is realistically normal maintenance. I knew about the Ford Death Wobble before I even bought the truck. I didn't know if I was going to get it or not, and turns out I did. But it's nothing that I wouldn't normally have paid. So just part of the job. Suppose that would be an argument for the enterprise lease, because I wouldn't have had to pay for that or the tires. Wow, that's $2,400 in a couple weeks that I've put into the truck in maintenance. But again, that was just fluke that everything lined up at the same time. So it is what it is. We're going to boogie up to Indiana in the morning. We're going to practice some social distancing and isolate myself in a motel room for 2 days, and then get back on the road. The hotel is like 20 minutes away from my pick, so that's great. And back on the road hard. She is totally prepped front to back. Everything's good. Ready to move forward. I think probably on my next oil change, I'll go ahead and do differential fluid, just because that's the only thing I haven't changed yet, and I figure she's probably well due for that. So next oil change, we'll do front and rear diff. Already did the transfer case. Now we've done everything else. So push forward, move on, and still continuing on these FEMA loads. So it is what it is. Still not complaining. Life's still good. Still love this job. Just a bad week. So with that, as always, those of you on the roads, I wish you fair winds and following seas. Take care and have a great day.